if you just listened to episode 6, this is the bonus episode. Because it was just too much to talk about Gamescom and everything else in that previous episode. And Gamescom was kind of interesting this year, so I feel like it's worth discussing some of the announcements, some of what was shown off and what's coming out. So that's what we're going to do with this one. We'll see how long it goes. This is either going to be a standard sized episode or maybe it's a little bite sized one. We'll find out together. So I guess leading things off, I mean, Nintendo's my favorite. I hope I've made this obvious to all of you who are listeners, all three of you. I absolutely love Nintendo. That's my system. That's my platform. That's my company. So maybe we'll look at the Nintendo side of things. I was excited to hear Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was coming to Switch. It seemed inevitable. You know, Xbox still has its psychotic, we're going to put all of our stuff on everything multi-platform approach going on. I mean, I can't complain. I've got Cuphead on my Switch because of that mindset. I'm still waiting for Master Chief. Like, you get me Halo on Switch too, I would be quite happy. But yeah, Indiana Jones. Indy is a property that is very near and dear to me. I love the Indiana Jones films. There are only 3. And yes, that is also a slight against Spielberg and Lucas themselves, because the 4th movie, come on. I think one of the things that drives me the most crazy about Crystal Skull is like the names of characters. You know, it's like, what's his son's name? Is it Mutt? It's like Mutt, Dog. Another character is like Butch. Like, it's like the stupidest, most generic names you could come up with for some of these guys. Doc or something. I'm just like, did you spend 5 minutes naming all of these characters? Like, and then they try to play them off to where it's like, oh yeah, you're attached to these characters the way you were attached to, you know, Sean Connery, you know, Henry Jones Sr., you had Sala, you had Brody. It's like, no, I liked all those characters because there was a build-up to them, with the exception of Sean Connery, but it's Sean Connery, dude. It ain't that hard. You know, he has so much charisma. You like him the second you start getting to know him in the movie. In fact, he doesn't show up until the latter part of the film. You go through that whole intro in Italy, then you get to really start to know him. I don't know how they just lost it by the time you get to the 4th movie, where like there's some interesting stuff in there that's kind of okay, kind of cool. You know, like the diner fight and then the chase and all that. You know, some of that stuff's entertaining. But no, as far as I'm concerned, there's 3 Indiana Jones films. Hey, this is a pop culture channel. I can talk about stuff other than just the video games. Leave me alone. All right. So, Great Circle. Great Circle's good. It does have problems. I will save my in-depth discussion for the Great Circle when hopefully I do a video review. I know I did the one, if you watch Nintendo Joe's channel. I've got that Donkey Kong video review. Trying to ramp it up. More video review content is coming. I will absolutely do one for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It suffers a little bit from modern day isms. You know, you have a couple characters who don't totally diminish Indy, but do a little bit. And I'm just like, yeah, he's the star here. And he's fucking brilliant. And he should be treated as such. Not like, oh, that silly boy. And you get some of that crap in here. Because of course you do. It's a modern day video game company, you know, filled with activists to the brim. It was bound to happen. But ignoring that part of things, the sense of being Indiana Jones in that game is very well done. Troy Baker's Indy, and he does a fabulous job of evoking Harrison Ford. Like, he doesn't sound like identical, but he's so close. It's just perfectly done. I'll take that over AI any day of the week. And gameplay-wise, the stealth is a little odd. At least when I played it on Xbox, it was like, it felt like some enemies I could just like walk right up to and they somehow didn't know I was there. And I'm supposed to be in stealth mode. So hopefully that kind of gets figured out by the time the Nintendo version comes out. I have not played it on PS5, so I don't know And I haven't played it if they've patched it on there. So I'm speaking from I played this when it came out. So maybe I'm wrong. But I hope they've fixed that. But the punching, the whipping, the shooting, everything's there. You feel like indie. This is only a good thing for Switch 2 owners. Keep your eyeballs peeled for that one. I think it's going to be good. Next up, and this one's multi-platform, okay? It's not just Switch, but the new Lego Batman game. So Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. So that's Warner Brothers games and then also TT Games. So it's the usual people who have made these. It's the fourth Lego Batman. But man, you can tell they're going for something with this one. Now keep in mind, TT Games accused of having a toxic workplace during the development of the Skywalker saga, I believe. Like all of a sudden there were all these reports coming out talking about crunch kind of stuff. Warner Brothers games struggling, right? You have hits like Harry Potter, and then you have just junk like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, which just bombed. And I feel like both studios are in this position of like, yeah, we need to win. We need a game that's just going to be a hit. And a Lego Batman game can do that. But like I said, you've had 3 of them up to this point. What more can you do? So what it looks like they're doing is a couple things. For one, I think they're acknowledging, hey, we have an older crowd now. You have people that grew up with Lego. I'm part of that first generation of Lego games. You had the Lego Star Wars game, which I believe the first Lego Star Wars is the prequel trilogy. And it was very formative, it stands out in my mind. I remember it being super fun. The Game Boy Advance version's fun. And they've just been churning them out now for years, right? Over 20 years of these games. So Lego Batman skews younger, of course. I feel like with Legacy of the Dark Knight, what they're trying to do is give you a slightly more mature take that's going to satisfy the younger kids. It clearly has the goofy Lego humor. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's going to be Christian Bale Batman freaking out the children. It's like, oh, Batman. If anything, it's going to probably mock it a little bit. But I do think they're leaning into the film Batman versions for this one. You see a lot of callbacks to the Christopher Nolan trilogy. In terms of the suit, in terms of some of the characters that you're seeing on screen. You can see it's supposed to be the Heath Ledger style of Joker. Bane as well. But then you have other characters who seem to be plucked from like the Burtonverse. So you have the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. You have those mimes that are on the steps when Joker kills that other mob boss guy in the 89 Batman. So they're seeming to be pulling from those different aspects of the character. But the other thing they're pulling from seems to be the Arkham games. You see him using the explosive gel. And the combat looks like it's based on those games. Very combo heavy. It looks like there's going to be more of an emphasis on skill in terms of your fighting. Now it mentions other characters, like talks about Gordon having what was it, like some kind of a spray gun or something. You have the other Bat characters and their ways of fighting are going to be incorporated in. But it still seems to be this emphasis on a combo-heavy, counter-heavy fighting system, not unlike the Arkham games. And 2 difficulty levels to make it more challenging. I think they're called, like, Dark Knight and... oh, man, I'm forgetting what the other one is. Okay, you might hear some audio on my end. Actually, hold on, I'll do this the smart way. Pause... and unpause. See, within seconds, less than a second, I was able to pull up my own article after I paused the recording. That's better than making you wait. So it says here, you have Caped Crusader and Dark Knight. So like one's hard and the other is extra hard. That's how I'm interpreting it. But that's nice, because it's acknowledging... I mean, we've seen this with everything, right? In terms of pop culture. It used to be that you thought, oh, you had that audience, they moved on, you'll never see them again. Move on to the next thing. But what we're saying is like, no, people love this stuff until they die. So you might as well give them, the Lego games, they're going to keep playing them, but make it a little harder. Keep them interested. Spice the formula up a little bit. I thought that was cool. So, even though I do think this is a little bit of TT and Warner Brothers just being like, please, God, please let it work. Let them buy it. I think they will buy it because I think it actually looks like it's going to be pretty good. So, kudos to them. So, Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, that's coming out 2026, and Indie is 2026, if I'm correct. And I don't think either of them have an actual release date. Next up is you have Pac-Man and Sonic crossing over. I thought that was pretty cool. Pac-Man World 2 repack and then Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. They will each feature the other. That's nice. Something a little different. We've seen Sonic and Mario team up. But, Pac-Man, give Pac-Man respect. That's the granddaddy of gaming mascots. And some of the pickier among us, I'm not saying I know one personally, are not big on like the Pac-Man World games. I think those are fine little 3D platformers. Throw in Sonic, I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then we get Pac-Man in a race car for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Remember, I went hands-on with Cross Worlds. It was a demo, like, I'm there in journalist mode, but I was just like, can I just keep playing? I did how many races? I want more. Like, that game's gonna be fun. So having Pac-Man in there, I'm all for it. Of course, the only problem is DLC, but like paid DLC. Hopefully, by the time you play these games, it feels like you're getting enough content across both that it doesn't feel like a ripoff. But I'm not really worried about that. I think it'll be fine. So that was a fun little announcement that I was totally there for. What else is noteworthy? Bubsy's back. You got Bubsy 4D. All of these, by the way, there are trailers on the Bits and Bytes YouTube channel. Nintendo Joe as well. So if you want to see what they're looking like, everything I've mentioned should be here. I guess maybe I should put this in the video description. Links to the videos. I don't know how many links it'll let me actually do those. It might not be worth it. But just go to the YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe. Give us a like. I'm supposed to say that, I think, in these videos. But Bubsy, it might be fun. Bubsy, it's like, does he really have a legacy? I mean, I played the one on Super Nintendo when I was a kid. I remember it. I still have it, but I don't know that I ever loved Bubsy, but give me a review key. I'll play it. Now, Resident Evil. You guys got to see more of Requiem. So Resident Evil 9. It's awesome. It's looking like it's going to be really, really good. I cannot wait to play these games. Or this game. I think that Requiem is going to be good. I've mentioned this before, I do think it's kind of funny that Capcom's all, we're returning to the things, it's like, you say that like every other game. We're returning to what made Resident Evil Resident Evil. It's like, yeah, it's survival horror. Okay, I mean, you keep doing that, different degrees of it. How is this different than 7? 7 was first person, and it was supposed to be super scary, and it seemed like it was, so I don't know. Anyway, I still think it looks pretty cool. And, I might be in love with Grace. I keep seeing her, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing as her for an entire game. This will definitely be in third person. So, yes, Requiem looks fabulous. That's coming out February of 2026. So, believe me, folks, my father has always said this. The second the 4th of July hits and goes, before you know it, it's Christmas. So it will absolutely be February before you know it, and you will be playing this game. It looks like they are very far along in development, so I'm not expecting this one to get delayed. So I'm down. The new trailer was pretty good. People, it sounds like, got to actually go hands-on and play it at Gamescom. Fortunately, I did not get to go to Gamescom. I don't know if I ever will, as long as I'm a teacher. It's like, yeah, school's in session. I can't just go. I don't know. We'll see how it goes next year, but very cool. The Gamescom, all those people got to check it out, and it sounded like reaction was positive, so that was interesting. Onimusha is another one Capcom's got simmering. Way of the Sword. And that was another good trailer. I think the combat looks pretty fun. one of my family members was not feeling it, but I think you should have Onimusha on your radar. They re-released the second game not too long ago, and this is a fresh new sequel. I think it's got this really good kind of creepy, you know, horror vibe mixed with samurai, and unlike I mentioned this before, right? Unlike Assassin's Creed Shadows, these developers are like doing proper research and not like looking up products on Temu and doing a digital scan and throwing it into their game or whatever the hell that they had going on. Got some authentic stuff going on with like the shrines that are presented. So just from that standpoint alone, it's pretty fascinating. Lords of the Fallen 2, giving them a shout out because they decided to say screw the crazy activism in the industry. No type 1, type 2 selection here for your player character. It is male, female. I think there's nothing wrong with that. So shout out to them. They got a sequel coming out. By all means, it seems like they've garnered a lot of respect from players for saying we're not going to be bullied just because you want us to do things a certain way. So that's cool. Lords of the Fallen 2. I think it's 2026. Onimusha is sooner. I believe Onimusha is this year. In fact, using again the wonderful power of hitting pause, and I have unpaused. I'm wrong. It is 2026. It's looking like. I don't know when though. I don't think there's a release date quite yet for that one. So it'll come when it comes, and it's looking like it's going to be good. So check that one out. So Black Myth Wukong has a new installment coming out. So the banner is Black Myth, and it's featuring different. It looks like Chinese. I don't know if they're like gods or legends, folklore, however you want to describe it. This time it's Zongqi, I think is how you say it, and it was a pretty cool trailer. I don't often marvel at graphics as much as I did as a kid. Like we live in this. I've talked to students in the past where I'm like, it's hard to convey because everything's HD basically nowadays. The progression from 2-bit into 3D, if you live through it, you know what that was like. Where you're just like, my God, like this is crazy. And I remember being in FAO Schwartz in San Francisco and seeing Sonic Adventure. I'm pretty sure it was the first Sonic Adventure in their video game section on a TV screen, and just being like, wow, that's amazing. Knights was another one where I just was stunned. I think that was also in FAO Schwartz, if I'm remembering right. 2 separate instances where a 3D game was just like, wow. And those were decidedly not HD. Now you're in the HD age, it's like everything's crystal clear, and then you have Unreal Engine, making it easier than ever for creators to produce HD games. But I was impressed looking at Zongqi. I was just like, wow, like look at the fabric on this dude's robe. Like this looks really good. And I get that I don't think that was in-game footage. Doesn't matter, just like as a piece of animation, it was very, very cool. So, we have a new character we're going to focus on, and I hope it's successful, I believe I've talked about Wukong, but my issue with Wukong is the reporting, something felt off, right? You had IGN saying, we talked to these people, we did, and then you have other people saying, well, I'm looking at your translations, I don't think they look right. And it's like, okay, you had one article that came from IGN, and then all the other journalists in the industry are basically just like, well, that studio's bad people doing, bad things, so that's how we're going to refer to them. It's like, well, I mean, based on what? You're basing it on one IGN investigative report that people dispute. So, why doesn't Company X go send one of their journalists over to China, do some reporting, figure it out? Instead, it's just by default, oh yeah, we're going to believe what IGN reported. I had a lot of trouble with that. I thought it was professionally dishonest. It's like, I think if you have questions, yes, they need to be investigated. If there's incidents going on, that's not good. But if I'm being told by a considerable number of people saying, this doesn't mesh with what I'm seeing in terms of, what's written, that's a red flag. So, I think that studio The fact that they were able to power through, put out Black Myth Wukong, it's a huge hit, despite various factors within the industry, the journalist part of the industry trying to undermine them. And then remember, they were snubbed, right, at the Game Awards. So good on them. Keep going. Hopefully, if there are problems at the company, they did fix them. Hopefully there was retribution if it was needed. But again, I'm not going to just say straight up, "Oh yeah, they're abusers, they're this, they're that." I honestly don't know. I think it is suspicious that there was a report that came out. It gives me a little pause, but I'm not going to treat it like it's a Bible verse or something. This is scripture. I don't even treat scripture like scripture. I have questions. Always have questions, people. All right, Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm not going to lie. I was like, another Black Ops. Like, we're not even like leaning into some other game. It's just immediately here's Black Ops 7. I mean, I hope it's good. I haven't really messed with Black Ops 6 a lot, but I'll give it a shot. I will say this, and I think I've said this before, but you can talk all the shit you want about Call of Duty. It keeps surviving. And I don't want to hear, you people will tell you things like, and I feel it sometimes. Annual releases are not always the greatest thing. But, like, Madden is the same game every year. Would I like to see some competition in the space? Sure. Do I think Madden could use some competition to push it to excel more? Sure. But people aren't completely worthless. The audience would not buy this stuff if they were not enjoying it. Like, if you legitimately were booting up Call of Duty and you're like, this sucks, people wouldn't play it. And how many so-called Call of Duty killers came and went over the years? Where it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be the game that takes down Call of Duty. This is going to be the one. I had a friend, okay? My friend Justin. He had told all of us when Brink was going to come out. Do you remember Brink? The blue box art? I don't even remember what it was supposed to be. I know it was a competitive online shooter. But Justin had convinced our little friend group that would play Call of Duty together, we've got to get this game day one. And so, half the group got it day one. And we're all sitting around, I think, in the Call of Duty lobby, right? And people are talking, and they're like, all right, Justin, so I got it. Are you going to get it? And Justin was like, I didn't get that game. And they're like, what do you mean you didn't get Brink? You kept telling all of us to get it. And he's like, yeah, but, I mean, the reviews were terrible. They're saying it's garbage, so I didn't buy it. So, like, half the friend group was pissed because Justin had told them to buy it, and he didn't do it. He was the one that was, like, the ringleader on this happening. And notice what I said. We were in the Call of Duty lobby talking about Brink. Call of Duty deserves its place in terms of, like, some respect, okay? People play this game. It matters to them. And when I've gotten back into Call of Duty, so friend group, it's the 2000s, right? Xbox 360 era. Call of Duty was the shit. Everybody played the hell out of that. I'm in my, like, 15th year of college playing it, enjoying it. But it's like, it's different times, It's like you're with your buddies. You have more free time. You're in school. It was just such a fun way to, like, spend time and get to know everybody and hang out and all that good stuff. And I was never as clocked in as some of the others. I was a late comer with Call of Duty. Then everyone just kind of moves on. And I would say about 3 years ago, I got, what was that damn game? Cold War, I think is what it was. That was my first time dipping back into Call of Duty. And man, I was having flashbacks of just how fun it was. And then I think after Cold War was maybe Modern Warfare 2. All I know is Modern Warfare 2 and that online multiplayer, and then all of the maps that were rehashes. That was such a fascinating experience for me. Because I was like, wow, I am back in places I remember being in that I never actually physically was in. But through the magic of video games and very realistic graphics, I have these stark memories, these strong, powerful memories of being in these different arenas, and I'm just like, wow, like it feels so weird to like be back here. It's like I'm back in a place I never was in, but I could feel it, and it speaks to just how powerful all of that period of my life was in terms of influencing me as a gamer. And Call of Duty's great. I had another friend, Phil. We were playing, I think it was the first Black Ops, and we were on the silo stage, and we all have our. Did I have a headset at the time? I have my stereo system, is what I'm getting at. Like I don't depend on a headset. Like I have actual speakers and a stereo system hooked up. So that's how I listen to my games, right? So between me with my stereo and Phil with his probably good headset, there was I think it was a rumbling of maybe like an airship or some jets going overhead. I just remember like in game, the audio was so convincing. Like for a second, I was just like, oh shit, like is there something flying over the house? And I'm like, no, this is the game. And we both kind of remarked like, dude, did you hear that? Like that was incredible. Like this is really great sound design. So take your Call of Duty hate elsewhere. I do shit on some annual games, and Call of Duty has its problems, but for the most part, I feel like you play that game, you have good fun. So, Black Ops 7, I'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. I gotta admit, I don't know how I'm feeling about Ghost of Yotai. It's a different era than when they made Ghost of Tsushima, so, am I saying that right? Hopefully. The jury's out. I'm waiting until this game comes out. Odds are very high that I will play it. Like I said, you can have your politics. I try to let that stuff be where it needs to be at the right time. I'm here to appraise games. Is this game good? There's identity politics talk going on with Ghost of Yotai. Some of it I'm like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. But I'm also just like, it is entirely possible it will be a good game. So, think about it. The last one came out, and despite Reddit scholars saying how it was cultural appropriation, despite the fucking Japanese people who were like, it's not, thanks for making something that was so respectful to us and our culture and our, the place you based it on. You're like honorary ambassadors or whatever it is that they made them. It's like, yeah, I'll take the Japanese assessment over your crazy ass assessment any day of the week. I am willing to give them a little bit of, trust and say, I'm hoping that this is going to be good. So, we'll see. It's coming out that one is this year. So, it won't be too long before we're actually playing Ghost of Yotai. I think it is September or October. I know Call of Duty is going to be November. There was a Sekiro anime, No Defeat, which is coming to Crunchyroll. As a game, sure, Sekiro's good, but I'm not really big on a lot of these anime adaptations. I am not the hugest anime person in general. When it comes to manga versus anime, I will defer to manga every time. Primarily because, for me, video is a commitment. If that fucking thing's an hour, you're sitting for an hour. Unless you're one of those people who's like, I watch at 1.5 speed. I'm just like, I can't do that. I'm just going to watch it if I'm going to watch it. So it's like that amount of time is going to be there and go. Whereas reading, I can take it at my pace, read it as I want to read it. It'll come at me at the speed I choose to ingest it. So I much prefer that. But the other issue is that I'm not real big on this look. Like, if you look at Sekiro compared to the Splinter Cell anime that was shown off, Death Watch, there was also a trailer for Season 2 of Devil May Cry. They all have this kind of odd look. I consider them to be the Western anime. And, they'll try to give it some rented respectability because they'll have, like, a Japanese animation house work on it. But I'm just like, it just doesn't feel authentic. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a shot. But I wasn't, like, super blown away by the trailer. For any of those shows, by the way. But yeah. I think Sekiro... let me just double check real quick. Yeah, so Sekiro's 2026. Devil May Cry Season 2 is 2026. Sam Fisher, though, that one's coming out this year. It's October 14th. So, 2025. So, you do have, some video game animated adaptations that you get to enjoy. But the other two are going to be a little bit. So, what else we got? Oh, so Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. Oh, all right. So I want to talk about this. There is a prototype mixed in. So if you are unfamiliar, Digital Eclipse, I believe they are Bay Area. They're a Bay Area developer. I think they're here somewhere. These guys are freaking cool. I got to talk to one of the devs at a Natsume holiday party once. And he was talking about, like, the challenge of taking these 2D games and putting them on these 3D machines. He's like, people think it's easy because they're 2D. He's like, it's actually harder because they're 2D. It just takes all this manipulation and finagling and, advanced coding and whatever to get it to work and feel right. These guys have just been in a groove. I use Atari 50 as a teaching tool. So Atari 50... the anniversary celebration or whatever it's called. That game is stunning. You've got tons of old Atari games to play, but not just games that came out, games that were prototypes, games that were like announced and never released. Like they found this stuff and completed it, made it workable, and put it in there. It's like the ultimate act of preservation. Incredible. But then there's the ancillary stuff, which, I mean, ancillary is almost kind of insulting. It's the video content they produce. They have interviews. They find artifacts and ephemera, advertising, standees. They'll scan it, take a picture, whatever. Just everything you could think of. It's like the proper historic treatment of this stuff. I wish to God that Atari would lend them to Nintendo and say, let them make an anniversary game for you. If nothing else, just let them produce the bonus content. They can do video interviews, they can go look up cabinets, cartridges, discs, etc. But it's such a complete package, and especially for people who love gaming history, love to see how games are made, Legacy Collection is going to be fabulous. I can just tell. And mixed in among the announcements, so here's all the games that were revealed, okay? So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 total games. But also, it's the different versions of them. So, for example, we have Mortal Kombat 1992. You're getting the arcade version. You're getting the SNES, the Genesis, the Game Boy, and the Game Gear version of that game. Then you go to, like, Mortal Kombat 3. Arcade, SNES, Genesis. But nestled in among all of these is Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, 1995. Arcade, SNES, but what else? WaveNet Arcade. What the hell is that? I'd never heard of that until I heard the announcement. So I looked it up, and I'm just like, oh, so this is pretty cool. It is a prototype from 1997 that was tested in the San Francisco and Chicago areas, okay? So those markets got cabinets for Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 that were part of this WaveNet network, which is like an old school broadband network that ran off of something called T1 lines, okay? Which, like, nobody had. So they're trying to push T1. Of course, it doesn't go anywhere. People got to try it. This thing was hardwired into Midway's actual headquarters. So this is like the most interesting thing. Just this early days of online play. And, this handful of participants got to try it, and then just, it was vapor. It was gone. And 30 years later, they brought it back. They got their hands on it. Because this is one of those things that, like, ROM dumper people have never been able to really get their hands on. Because, like, basically no one had this network. No one had access to it. Or the game. What are you supposed to do? But here comes Digital Eclipse, and they're like, yeah, we got it. We got it working. It even has a version-exclusive character. It's the only version of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 where you get to play as Noob. So, pretty interesting stuff. That's going to be included. And I'm all for it. We need more of that in the industry. So, awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, a few more, and then we'll kind of wrap this one up. Triangle Strategy. I got to fix the thumbnail on Bits and Bytes. But it's on Xbox and PlayStation, like right now. You can sit and play that. So I thought that was cool. Square continues to kind of just spread out these RPGs it's making to every platform. I don't have like a big problem with console exclusives, but it is nice having the option to play things other places. So it's probably for the best. Triangle Strategy is now on everything. Same as Final Fantasy VII Remake. I was remiss. I did not realize that this had actually been announced a couple months ago as coming to Xbox. I was already pumped for the Nintendo Switch 2 version that's coming, but this is also going to be on Series X and Series S. So that's pretty cool. It's sounding like it's going to be a Christmas game, which leads me to think that means it'll be a Christmas game for Switch 2 as well. Fingers crossed, but I really hope that it does come out around then. I don't feel like waiting until 2026 for it. It's like, give me something to play around Christmas. So keep your eyes peeled. We will definitely update when we hear the release date for 7 Remake. But yeah, it's going to be awesome. And speaking of Xbox, so the ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X. Okay, if you don't know, it's based on it's like custom ROG Ally Xbox branding, Xbox like operating system. It is an Xbox handheld that Xbox just didn't happen to make, right? They partnered with this other company. All of this sounds cool. It is digital only, like a Steam Deck, but you'll have access to all these Xbox games. You can sit, you can play, it has a operating system, blah, blah, blah. All that's cool. Here's the problem. The Ally is $500. Fine. All right. A Switch 2 is $450. The best Steam Deck that you can get your hands on with an OLED screen and a terabyte of memory is $650. So it's kind of in the middle. Closer to a Switch 2. That's fine. If you want the Ally X, though, now that was a rumored price, okay? This is also a rumored price. The rumored price for the Ally X is that it's a $900 fucking console. Handheld. It is the premium version. It's going to run... It has more memory, more internal... more RAM, all that good stuff. But I'm just like, $900? Who is going to buy that? Now, granted, if I had $900 to blow, I would buy it, but that's because I'm like a hardcore collector. I want all of these things in my collection. I want to try it. I want to be able to write about it, on and on, right? That's my kind of thinking. The average consumer is not thinking that. My brother-in-law despises this sort of thinking, where I'm like, well, I have a PS5, but I really want a Slim, and I want a Pro. He's like, why? You have a PS5. It's just like, understand, I'm a collector. I want these things. But consumers, it's like, so I could go get a Steam Deck, and you can play these Xbox games on the Steam Deck. Granted, it's not going to be as optimized, but there is a way to get them running on here. Why would I spend $900? I don't know. I mean, that performance better be buttery smooth, my friends, but good luck. It comes out in October. We'll see. I think the $500 one is the one that will probably sell, and I hope it runs well. I hope it works. It'd be cool. Competition's good, okay? And Xbox, I'm sorry, I don't know if I've debated, gone into this and complained a lot on my podcast. I don't remember every episode, folks, so forgive me. I'm not a fan of what Xbox has been doing. That's a long way of getting to that point. I don't like how they've treated their console situation. And I don't really like the whole console-less future idea that people have. So having them create hardware like this, at least in partnership, I think is good. Now the rumor is that there is an actual made by Xbox handheld on the way. So not partnered with any other company like ROG. Just something that Microsoft is making. But allegedly that's on pause. And I believe it's because they're basically looking at this and saying, so how is this going to sell? If this does dick, we're not going to make our own handheld. Why? So that we can sell it and have that do dick too? No thanks. Let other companies deal with the R&D. And if people want it and they like it, then we'll say, sure, here goes ours. And fuck over the Ally. Because it would, right? I mean, it's like, well, why would I buy that one? Here's the Xbox one. But we'll see. The long game that they're playing here. Rogue Prince of Persia has officially hit Xbox and PlayStation. I am having a lot of fun with that game. It's pretty good so far. However, it's got a little bit of the obnoxious modern day isms in the writing. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. These writers, I don't know if these are people who are of, Persian descent, who have ancestry from that part of the world. Maybe they're Middle Eastern, whatever. I don't know. All I know is you get this, like, fucking cringeworthy mention of a chicken kebab from one of the characters. Or he's talking about, like, these ancient voices that speak to him, and it's like, they're wondering where to find a good chicken kebab. I'm like, come on, play it straight, okay? I don't need the Marvel bullshit mixed in. The unnecessary humor. It's okay to just take yourself seriously. Other than that, though, for the most part, it's been solid. I'm still pretty early in. But it's a roguelike setup. That's why it's the Rogue Prince of Persia. I believe this is made by the Dead Cells people. I might be wrong on that. But it has a similar kind of feel. So, regardless, whoever made it, it is fun. It's worth a look. I'll try to have a proper review of that soon, hopefully. Let's start to wrap this up. Last couple. Hollow Knight Silksong. It finally has an announced release date. Yay! It comes out September. I think it's September 4th, if I'm remembering correctly. So, that is nice. It's pretty much coming out on everything. And yes, it is September 4th. So if you've been waiting, if you're among the legions of people who have been waiting since... let me go back here again. So I believe development started in 2018. So we're 7 years, but like really closer to like 8. It's going to be almost the end of the year by the time September rolls around, right? So, between 7 and 8 years of waiting, finally you get to get your hands on Silksong. So that's going to be cool. It's a Metroidvania. If you've never played the original Hollow Knight, very beloved, great game design, and now you're getting another one. So keep your eyes open for that one. And finally, a lovely launch trailer was shown off for Metal Gear Solid Delta. I'm looking forward to trying it. I really do hope Delta's good. It comes out this week. I believe it's the 28th. All right. I will double check that because I don't want to give you the wrong date. And I'm correct. It is the 28th. So, Delta, if you are unfamiliar, haven't been keeping track of this, it is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. So it's Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Of course, an absolutely classic game. This is canonically, I think still to this day, if I'm remembering right, this is the first story in the Metal Gear series. So like, not in terms of games that came out, but just in terms of where everything starts, like storyline-wise, this is the first one. So this is not Solid Snake. This is Big Boss that you're playing as. And it's like the origin of how he becomes Big Boss, how he loses his eye, dealing with his mentor, and on and on. It's a very classic game. Came out on PlayStation 2. Wonderful. And if you've never played it, here's the talk, right? A lot of the reviews are coming out. Everybody's saying it's fantastic. I saw, I think Push Square was saying, like, this is the definitive version of Metal Gear Solid 3. Because there's been the PlayStation 1, there's been re-releases, there was the one on 3DS. He's saying this is the one, or they're saying this is the one to play. I don't know. I haven't played it. It looks good. I do remember, I have problems with Konami. They frustrate me because they went from being, as far as I'm concerned, one of the premier game studios in the world, right up there with Capcom and Square and anybody else, right? They scaled back. All of a sudden they're about these fucking fitness clubs that they have in Japan, and ownership was just not as keen on game development. And so it seems like that's been changing, but see, what I keep seeing is like, oh, another developer is going to handle stuff. It's not like Konami. And that bugs me a little bit. And a game like Metal Gear, I'm sorry, but this is, as far as I'm concerned, Metal Gear Solid is one of the premier franchises in all of video games. Lest ye have forgotten, MGS5 came out, prior to Breath of the Wild. But there are aspects within MGS5 that kind of open world approach to solving things were in that game. It's an incredible game. You can think what you want about the story, Venom Snake, etc., but it's just fabulous in terms of gameplay. And like if you look at it now, compared to even some contemporary games, beautiful. The Fox engine that Konami developed, because of Kojima, just incredible. So for this remake to be coming out and it's not being handled by Kojima, it's just sad, And it's in Unreal Engine, and that's not a slight against Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine does some pretty wonderful things, but like Konami was showing off, graphically, look at what the game looks like, and I'm like, yeah, how much of that is you versus just the Unreal Engine? I mean, I get it. Did you make all these character models? Did you make all these assets? Fine, pat yourself on the ass. You did a good job. It looks good, but you think of Metal Gear Solid 3, it's like, yeah, you know who made everything in that? That was Kojima. That was Konami internally, producing the engine for it, the assets for it. And that's, it's just a different world. I think it's sad that there was the fallout that happened between Kojima and Konami. I was actually watching my sister play the first Metal Gear on her own, because she sat and watched me play it in the past. I know she's seen me play Twin Snakes. She's playing the PlayStation version. And it's just really, I'm sitting there watching all the cutscenes. I told her you got to do the mission brief first. You got to sit and watch all that. Just incredible stuff. Kojima's vision. I mean, I get it. I can imagine being Konami and you're like, I'm sorry, how many years is it going to take to make Metal Gear Solid 5? How long do we have to wait? How many millions of dollars do we have to invest? And it's like, and you're still not done? There's that entire thing, if you are unaware of this, but there's an entire chunk of story that was supposed to be included that's just not in MGS5. And the only way that you can even see it is if you had bought the collector's edition and it talks to you about what the true ending was going to be. And I would love to have seen it. I would still love to see it. I think an incredible gift to fans would be if Kojima and Konami could just bury the hatchet, and if nothing else, say, we want you to produce that last chapter of MGS5. Develop it, make it. We can do it as DLC. We can do a definitive re-release of MGS5 for modern hardware, and in it is the lost chapter. That'd be incredible. But for now, I got to be content with at least I've got a remake of MGS3. And I hope it's good. I also hope that there is not any censorship. The first thing I was worried about was Eva's not going to have her bikini top. Her cleavage will be gone. She will be the most unsexualized thing that they could possibly make it in case somebody on Reddit has a mental breakdown. They did not seem to do that. I do think there's going to be a dumbass trigger warning, which I'm so sick of that bullshit. But if nothing else, it looks like we're getting the game as is. However, I don't know if that's going to include everything with, Volgan, for example. So Colonel Volgan's one of the characters in it. He's gay. He has several moments that demonstrate he's gay. But I don't know if, some DEI expert at Konami was, looking and saying, that's acceptable portrayal versus not. I don't know. I'm hoping they left it the fuck alone. Just leave it alone. It doesn't offend anyone who's actually sane. And that includes people who are LGBTQ. You are only fearing the activists at this point. Everyone else is pretty chill. So, don't touch it. You give us MGS3 as it's supposed to be. So, fingers crossed. I'm hoping that that's what we get. So, that was Gamescom. And I think it was a pretty successful showing all around. I think that there's a lot of stuff coming out that PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox owners can look forward to. Even the PC players a little bit. I was pleased. So, that's your bonus episode. I guess I'll keep it short. It's a little shorter than usual. It's about less than an hour. But I hope you enjoyed it. And give it a listen. Give us a share. Give us a follow. Give me a cookie. I don't know. It's getting late. It's almost 2 a.m. where I am recording. and I need to go to work in the morning. So get some sleep. You get some sleep too if you're listening late. Thank you for tuning into the Midnight Burial. And I will catch you all in the next episode.